Okay, so I want to talk about a book, well, a part of a book which was written by H. Price, who was a professor and a philosopher who was in the early 20th century, somewhat, and um, he was a writer of a book called Perception, and he had a lot of other writings, and he did some lectures and stuff like that, which was about sense data or the given and that kind of epistemology. And I want to talk about his thoughts on the given or sense data and as to what that is and as to whether there are sense data and stuff like that. Beliefs concerning material things, as in sight and touch, mostly that is what the given is. The given is the foundational thing that many many epistemologists have sort of tried to use as as the ground or the foundation of all philosophy of all science. Um, the logical positivists are the main ones who have tried to do that, and in more recent sort of times, the logical positivists in the 20s and the 30s, up to the 50s even, are those who have wanted to make the given or sense data the ultimate foundation for all of science and philosophy. And the given is sense data, or that of data having to do with sight or touch, seeing a certain color of patch of a certain shape, and color. G.E. Moore and Bertrand Russell have written on the same thing. And there's the sort of, we're trying to they were trying to put all of science on a certain foundation. They want to have a foundation for scientific information, or and they wanted to have a science that was strictly empirical, and they wanted to base that on the given itself. And the question is that of is a epistemic one, as what are our grounds in believing something? What are our grounds in believing anything in physics or chemistry? And empirical science shows how we come to believe things. They show the causal relation from a certain perception occurring to a certain belief, resulting. It's a causal relation, and that the positivists and Russell and Moore have not looked at it as much of a causal one. They've looked at it as a justificatory connection, in that if you have had a perception and a belief resulting, the perception occurring is the warrant or the grounds of believing it. And we have to examine, according to Price, we have to examine seeing and touching the best we can. And the question is, how does visual observation justify our beliefs about a tomato? There's this big, one of the big things that Price is known for is his example of looking at a tomato. And we have to figure out how our observation of something like a tomato justifies our beliefs about that, have to justify our beliefs about the tomato. And with seeing a tomato, there's much one can doubt. And he's kind of sort of going down the route that Descartes went down in a different way, in a different light, I guess. We can doubt whether a tomato is painted on a piece of wax. We can doubt whether it actually is a tomato. There's lots of epistemic examples and scenarios that have been painted and used. Alvin Goldman, much later, gave the scenario of when you're in a county where you have all painted barn facades, like something that looks like a barn. It's basically it's a facade. It's like a paper cardboard barn. It's a facade, and you drive into that county knowing that all barns are facades and not actually barns. However, there is one barn in the whole county, and when you're driving, how do you know when you see that barn that it's just a facade? So you could see a barn thinking it's a facade, so you don't really have a ground for believing anything is a barn facade or a barn. Same with the tomato. We can doubt whether it's actually a tomato or if it's a painted piece of wax or a tomato facade. I can doubt whether I'm seeing any material thing at all according to Price. We can doubt a lot of things here, but however he says that he exists and that he is conscious of it cannot be doubted. So that's that's sort of a Cartesian thing. Descartes tried to think about what he can doubt and what he can't doubt, and he cannot doubt that he exists and that he is conscious of something. And you have the state of being given, which is of a peculiar manner of being present to consciousness, so that we cannot doubt that within myself and within everybody there is a sort of consciousness. I'm conscious of things, and I cannot doubt that I exist. I cannot doubt that I'm conscious of things. Consciousness exists, and that is a indubitable fact. However, what we are conscious of is something that can be doubted. It cannot be doubted that there are things present to consciousness, via acquaintances or intuitive apprehension, intuition, whatever you want to call it. And he comes about the idea of sense data, which is a color patch, the act of sensing, or the act of being acquainted with sense data. The differing from introspection and memory. That's something that we are conscious of things that is different from things that are in here, like introspection or memory. And the question he kind of comes down to, or one of the questions that he has come down to about perception or sense data itself, is can we doubt that sense data exist? Can we doubt that there are sense data? And we come upon the whole issue of doctrines of no sense data. One doctrine is that the very notion of givenness is an absurd and self-contradictory notion, where basically thinking of things in that way is absurd and self-contradictory. Two is that we can never find anything which is given. So there's no given at all, and that's the empirical thesis. So we have the a priori thesis, which is that the very idea or notion of sense data is absurd. That's a priori, and that we're doubting the very notion. And there's the empirical thesis, which is that we can't find anything that which is given. So there is no given at all, and that's sort of a skeptical sort of thing. That's sort of a brand of skepticism, and there's a lot of there's a lot of skeptic philosophy sort of built on that there is no given, or there's no foundation. So we have a lot of questions about sense data within philosophy, and sort of since the logical positivist era sort of died out, the question as to whether we should, abide in sense data or not is sort of no longer a real question anymore, because we have a lot of other ways of going about, theories of justification or knowledge without trying to abide by sense data or any sort of given. We can do things in many different ways, and there are a lot of different philosophies. If we factor in Quine and epistemology since Gettier, we don't have to think about that much anymore. It's not as big of a deal. So, but I did want to sort of touch on that, because I do plan on talking about this in my introductory epistemology course. So,